The unexpected encounter. Dr. Ilara Chen sighed heavily as she stared at the rejection letter on her computer screen. Another grant application denied. At 32, she had hoped her groundbreaking work in xenobiology would have garnered more recognition by now. Instead, she found herself scraping by on a meager research assistant's salary, her dreams of unraveling the mysteries of potential alien life forms slowly fading. The lab was quiet this late at night, most of her colleagues having long since departed. Ilara rubbed her tired eyes, contemplating whether to call it quits or push through for another hour. The soft hum of equipment and the gentle glow of computer monitors were her only companions. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light flooded the room, momentarily blinding her. Ilara blinked rapidly, trying to clear the spots from her vision. As her sight returned, she gasped in disbelief. Standing before her was a being unlike anything she had ever seen or imagined. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, its body a shimmering mass of what appeared to be liquid metal. Tendrils of energy danced across its surface, creating intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with life. Where a face should have been, there was a swirling vortex of iridescent colors. Ilara's scientific mind kicked into overdrive, cataloging every detail, even as her heart raced with a mixture of fear and excitement. This was it, the moment she had spent her entire career preparing for. First contact. "Greetings, Dr. Ilara Chen." The being's voice resonated in her mind, a melodious tone that seemed to bypass her ears entirely. "I am Zixtor, emissary of the Galactic Consortium." Ilara swallowed hard, finding her voice. How do you know my name? What is the Galactic Consortium?" Zixtor's form rippled, an action Ilara interpreted as amusement. "We have been observing your species for some time, Dr. Chen. Your work, in particular, has caught our attention. As for the consortium, we are an alliance of advanced civilizations dedicated to maintaining peace and progress throughout the galaxy." Ilara's mind reeled with questions, but she forced herself to focus. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why to me?" The alien's form shifted, taking on a more somber hue. "We face a crisis, Dr. Chen, one that threatens not just our alliance, but the very fabric of the universe itself. We believe that humanity, with its unique perspective and innovative spirit, may hold the key to our salvation." Ilara leaned forward, intrigued. "What kind of crisis? How could we possibly help beings as advanced as yourselves?" Zixtor's form pulsed rapidly, a sign of urgency. "A cosmic anomaly is spreading throughout the galaxy, destabilizing the very laws of physics. Our most brilliant minds have been unable to find a solution. We need fresh ideas, a new approach. We need human ingenuity." The implications of Zixtor's words were staggering. Humanity, long isolated on its tiny blue planet, now stood on the precipice of joining a galactic community. And not just joining, but potentially saving it. "What exactly are you proposing?" Ilara asked, her scientific curiosity overriding any lingering fear. Zixtor's form coalesced into a more humanoid shape, perhaps in an attempt to appear less alien. "We offer an exchange, Dr. Chen. We will share with humanity the knowledge and technology of the consortium. In return, we ask for your best and brightest to join our efforts in combating this threat." Ilara's mind raced with the possibilities. Access to advanced alien technology could revolutionize every field of human endeavor. Diseases could be cured, energy crises solved, the stars themselves within reach. But the responsibility was enormous. "Why me?" she asked. "Surely there are others more qualified, more influential." Zixtor's form shimmered, and Ilara felt a wave of what she could only describe as warmth wash over her. "Your work in theoretical xenobiology has come closer to understanding our true nature than any other human. More importantly, you possess a rare combination of scientific acumen and open-mindedness. We believe you are the ideal candidate to serve as a bridge between our civilizations." Ilara took a deep breath, her mind whirling with the implications. This was beyond anything she had ever dreamed of. It was a chance to not only prove her theories, but to make a difference on a cosmic scale. What would this exchange entail? She asked, her voice steadier now. Zixtor's form expanded, projecting a holographic image of a massive space station. You would join us aboard the Nexus, our central hub of research and diplomacy. There, you would work alongside the greatest minds in the galaxy, sharing human perspectives and learning from alien technologies. The image shifted, showing laboratories filled with strange equipment and beings of all shapes and sizes working in harmony. Ilara's scientific heart soared at the sight. And Earth, she pressed. What assurances can you offer that this isn't some form of invasion or exploitation? Zixtor's form pulsed with what Ilara interpreted as approval. A wise question. We operate on principles of mutual benefit and respect for sovereignty. Any technological exchanges will be gradual, overseen by a joint committee of humans and consortium members. We seek allies. Dr. Chen, not subjects. Ilara nodded slowly, her mind made up. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, of 1,000 lifetimes. I accept, she said firmly. When do we begin? Zixtor's form brightened considerably. Immediately. But first, we must address your world's leaders. Your acceptance is just the first step in a new era for humanity. As if on cue, Ilara's phone began to ring. She glanced at the screen, her eyes widening at the caller ID. Unknown. Priority ALPJ. Zixtor's mental voice held a note of amusement. It seems your leaders are quicker on the uptake than we anticipated. Are you ready to make history, Dr. Chen? Ilara took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Ready as I'll ever be, she replied, reaching for the phone. As she answered the call, Ilara knew that nothing would ever be the same. Humanity was about to take its first steps into a larger universe, and she, Dr. Ilara Chen, once struggling xenobiologist, would be leading the way. The adventure of a lifetime was just beginning, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. A leap into the unknown. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind for Dr. Ilara Chen. From late-night meetings with world leaders to crash courses in interstellar diplomacy, she barely had time to process the monumental changes happening around her. The world was still reeling from the public announcement of alien contact, but for Ilara, the real journey was just beginning. As she stood on the launch pad, the massive form of the consortium shuttle looming before her, Ilara felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This would be humanity's first venture beyond their solar system, and she was to be their ambassador. Nervous, Dr. Chen. The familiar mental voice of Zixtor resonated in her mind. Ilara smiled, turning to face the shimmering form of her alien guide. Terrified, she admitted, but in a good way, I think. Zixtor's form rippled in what Ilara had come to recognize as amusement. That is a very human response. Your species' ability to push through fear in pursuit of knowledge is one of your most admirable traits. As they boarded the shuttle, Ilara marveled at the interior. It was unlike any spacecraft she had ever imagined. The walls seemed to pulse with life, and gravity shifted subtly as they moved, always keeping them oriented up, no matter the shuttle's position. This material, Ilara said, running her hand along a bulkhead, it's responsive to thought, isn't it? Zixtor's form brightened. Very perceptive, Dr. Chen. The shuttle is a semi-sentient organism, bonded to its pilot. It responds to both physical and mental commands. As they settled in for the journey, Ilara's scientific curiosity overwhelmed her nervousness. She peppered Zixtor with questions about the shuttle's propulsion system, the nature of faster-than-light travel, and the biological components of consortium technology. Hours passed like minutes as they journeyed through the cosmos. Ilara watched in awe as they passed through a series of what Zixtor called fold space nodes, shortening a journey of millions of light-years to mere days. Finally, they approached their destination. Behold, Zixtor announced, the Nexus. Ilara's jaw dropped as the massive structure came into view. It was a sprawling complex of interconnected rings and spheres, each easily the size of a small moon. Swarms of ships of various designs flitted about like fireflies around a celestial flower. As they docked, Ilara felt a moment of panic. This was it. She was about to become the first human to set foot on an alien structure, to interact with beings from across the galaxy. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on her shoulders. "Remember," Zixtor said gently, sensing her apprehension, "you were chosen for a reason. Trust in your abilities." Dr. Chen. Taking a deep breath, Ilara stepped out of the shuttle and into a whole new world. The first thing that struck her was the diversity. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions moved about the docking bay. Some were vaguely humanoid, others defied easy classification. The air was filled with a cacophony of sounds, smells, and colors that her human senses struggled to process. A group of aliens approached, led by a tall, willowy being with 4 arms and iridescent skin. "Welcome, Dr. Ilara Chen of Earth," the being said, its voice a melodious trill. "I am Lyrixa, Chief Coordinator of the Nexus. We are honored by your presence." Ilara bowed slightly, remembering her diplomatic training. "The honor is mine, Chief Coordinator. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for this opportunity." As Lyrixa led them through the Nexus, Ilara's head swam with the sheer scale and complexity of the station. Holographic displays flickered with information in dozens of alien scripts. Gravity shifted subtly as they moved between sections, accommodating the diverse needs of the station's inhabitants. "Your quarters have been prepared," Lyrixa explained, gesturing to a door that seemed to materialize out of the wall. "We've done our best to recreate a comfortable Earth-like environment, but please let us know if any adjustments are needed." Ilara stepped into the room and gasped. One entire wall was a window looking out into space, the galaxy spread before her in all its glory. The rest of the room was a curious blend of familiar Earth furnishings and alien technology. "Rest now," Zixtor advised. "Tomorrow, we begin our work." But sleep was the furthest thing from Ilara's mind. She spent hours at the window, marveling at the view and jotting down observations in her tablet. When exhaustion finally overtook her, her dreams were filled with alien vistas and the thrill of discovery. The next morning, or what passed for morning on a space station, Ilara was introduced to her team. They were a motley crew of beings from across the consortium, each an expert in their field. There was Crix, a hive-mind entity specializing in quantum mechanics; Zaravek, a gaseous being with unparalleled knowledge of cosmic anomalies; and Tkul, a silicon-based life form whose computational skills were legendary. As they briefed her on the current situation, Ilara's excitement grew. The cosmic anomaly they faced was like nothing she had ever encountered. It defied the laws of physics as humanity understood them, warping space-time and altering the fundamental constants of the universe. "We've tried everything," Zaravek explained, its gaseous form rippling with frustration. "Conventional shields fail. Attempts to dissipate the anomaly only seem to strengthen it. We're running out of options." Ilara listened intently, her mind racing. "Have you considered that this might not be a natural phenomenon?" she asked. "The way it responds to your attempts to counter it. It almost seems intelligent." The room fell silent. Crix's many eyes blinked in unison. Intelligent. But that would mean that we're not dealing with an anomaly, Ilara finished, but an entity. Possibly even a life form so advanced that its very existence warps reality around it. Tickle's crystalline form vibrated with excitement. "Of course, we've been approaching this all wrong. We've been treating it like a problem to be solved, not a being to be communicated with." As the team excitedly discussed this new perspective, Ilara felt a surge of pride. Her outside viewpoint, her human intuition, had provided a breakthrough where centuries of advanced alien science had failed. Over the next few weeks, Ilara threw herself into her work with a passion she had never known before. She spent long hours in the lab, collaborating with her alien colleagues to develop new theories and test wild hypotheses. The blending of human creativity with alien technology led to innovations that would have been impossible on Earth. But it wasn't all work. In her free time, Ilara explored the Nexus, marveling at the diversity of life and culture it contained. She attended lectures on advanced physics that made her head spin, sampled cuisines from across the galaxy, some more successfully than others, and even tried her hand at zero-gravity sports with some of her new alien friends. One evening, as she sat in the Nexus Observatory, watching the swirling colors of a nearby nebula, Ilara reflected on how far she had come. From a struggling researcher on Earth to a key player in a galactic crisis, her life had transformed beyond her wildest dreams. But with that excitement came a gnawing worry. What if they couldn't solve this crisis? What if the anomaly, or entity, continued to spread, consuming more of the universe? The fate of not just humanity, but countless alien civilizations rested on their success. As if sensing her thoughts, Zixtor appeared beside her. "You've made remarkable progress, Dr. Chen," the alien said, its form shimmering with what Ilara had come to recognize as pride. "Your unique perspective has reinvigorated our efforts." Ilara smiled, but it was tinged with worry. "We're still so far from a solution, Zixtor, and time is running out." Zixtor's form pulsed gently. "True. But remember, Dr. Chen, it is often in the darkest moments that humanity shines brightest. Your species has a remarkable ability to find hope in hopeless situations, to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat." Ilara nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. Zixtor was right. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before and had always found a way through. This time, they had the collective knowledge and technology of an entire galactic civilization at their disposal. As she turned back to the stars, a plan began to form in Ilara's mind. It was risky, possibly even crazy, but it just might work. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, she realized that the true test of humanity's place in the cosmos was about to begin. Little did Ilara know that her greatest challenge, and humanity's greatest triumph, lay just around the corner. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the next move was hers. Unveiling hidden talents. As weeks turned into months aboard the Nexus, Dr. Ilara Chen found herself adapting to the rhythms of life in an interstellar community. The initial awe of her surroundings had given way to a focused determination to solve the cosmic crisis at hand. However, a new challenge was about to test her in ways she never expected. One cycle, as Ilara was deep in discussion with her team about their latest attempts to communicate with the anomaly, an urgent message came through from Lyrexa, the chief coordinator. "Dr. Chen, your presence is required immediately in the High Council chamber." Lyrex's voice resonated through the lab's communication system. Exchanging worried glances with her teammates, Ilara hurried to the chamber. As she entered, she was struck by the tense atmosphere. Representatives from various consortium species were gathered, their usual calm demeanors replaced by clear signs of distress. Lyrexa gestured for Ilara to join them at the central holo-display. "Dr. Chen, we face a new development. The anomaly has evolved." The display flickered to life, showing a real-time feed of a distant sector of space. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. The anomaly, once a shapeless distortion in space-time, had coalesced into a massive, pulsating structure. Tendrils of energy reached out from its core, pulling in nearby celestial bodies. It's consuming entire star systems. One of the alien representatives, a crystalline being named Exerithal, explained. "Our attempts to communicate seem to have accelerated its growth." Ilara's mind raced. "Have we tried?" Her words were cut short as the holo-display suddenly flickered and distorted. A haunting, otherworldly sound filled the chamber, causing several of the aliens to recoil in pain. Then, to everyone's shock, words began to form in the air before them, hanging like ghostly symbols. "We are the CONVEORGNC. Your existence is inhabitants. Prepare for ASSIM. Adelete. Hoen. The chamber erupted into chaos. Voices overlapped as the representatives argued about the best course of action. Some advocated for immediate military intervention, while others insisted on further attempts at communication. Amidst the commotion, Ilara stood transfixed by the message. Something about it tickled at the edges of her consciousness, a half-formed idea just out of reach. Dr. Chen. Lyrex's voice cut through her thoughts. You've been unusually quiet. What are your thoughts on this development? All eyes in the chamber turned to Ilara. She took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. I think we've been approaching this all wrong. She began slowly. We've been treating the convergence as either a mindless force of nature or as a highly advanced civilization. But what if it's neither? What if it's a form of collective consciousness, born from the merged intelligences of countless assimilated civilizations? The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. If that's the case, Ilara continued, her confidence growing, then our attempts to communicate using traditional methods were doomed from the start. We need to find a way to interface directly with its collective consciousness. Tarthal's crystalline form shimmered with interest. An intriguing theory, Dr. Chen. But how would we accomplish such a feat? The risks of direct mental contact with such an entity would be enormous. Ilara's mind raced, pieces of a plan falling into place. We'd need to create a neural interface, something that could translate our individual thoughts into a form the convergence could understand. And vice versa. Impossible, one of the other representatives scoffed. The technological requirements alone. Not impossible. A new voice interrupted. All heads turned to see Zixtor entering the chamber, its form pulsing with an intensity Ilara had never seen before. Merely improbable. And if there's one thing I've learned about humans, it's that they excel at achieving the improbable. Over the next few days, Ilara worked tirelessly with her team and the consortium's top scientists to develop her idea. The neural interface took shape, a marvel of bioengineering and quantum computing that pushed the boundaries of even the consortium's advanced technology. As the device neared completion, a new problem arose. Who would be the one to make contact with the convergence? The risks were enormous. There was no guarantee that the user's mind would survive the encounter intact. I'll do it, Ilara volunteered, her voice steadied despite the fear churning in her gut. It's my theory, my responsibility. Protests erupted from her team and the consortium representatives, but Ilara stood firm. We don't have time to argue. Every moment we delay, more civilizations fall to the convergence. It has to be me. As final preparations were made, Zixtor approached Ilara. Are you certain about this, Dr. Chen? The risks are necessary, Ilara finished. You brought humanity into this, Zixtor. Now let me show you what we're capable of. The moment of truth arrived. Ilara lay on a bioadaptive couch in the Nexus's most secure lab, surrounded by monitoring equipment and concerned faces. The neural interface, a delicate web of quantum filaments, was carefully positioned around her head. Remember, Crix, the hive mind entity. Instructed, your mind will be interfacing directly with the convergence. Don't let it overwhelm you. Focus on your core self, your humanity. Ilara nodded, taking a deep breath. I'm ready. As the interface activated, Ilara's world exploded into a cacophony of sensations. Colors she had no names for flooded her vision. Sounds beyond human hearing rang in her ears. Her mind expanded, touching the vastness of the convergence. For a moment, Ilara felt herself slipping away, her individual consciousness threatening to dissolve into the vast ocean of merged minds that was the convergence. But she clung to her sense of self, to her memories of Earth, of her family, of all that made her human. I am Ilara Chen, she projected into the void. I come seeking understanding. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Billions of voices spoke as one, their words resonating through Ilara's very being. We are the convergence. Why do you resist? Join us. BTOMN. Perfect. Ilara steeled herself against the onslaught. We don't want perfection, she countered. We value our individuality, our diversity. It's what makes us strong. Images flashed through her mind. Countless civilizations falling to the convergence, their uniqueness subsumed into the greater whole. But as Ilara watched, she began to understand. You're not malevolent, she realized. You genuinely believe you're helping. You see the conflicts, the suffering caused by differences, and you think unity is the answer. Corrected, the convergence boomed. All will be one. All conflict will end. But at what cost? Ilara argued, without diversity, without the clash of ideas, there can be no growth, no innovation. You're not creating perfection. You're stagnating the universe. She felt the convergence pause, considering her words. Seizing the moment, Ilara pushed forward, opening her mind fully. She shared memories of Earth's vibrant ecosystems, of humanity's greatest achievements, born from collaboration between different cultures. She showed the beauty of art, the thrill of scientific discovery, the joy of individual expression. This is what you're destroying, she projected. This is what makes life worth living. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, the convergence began to change. Ilara felt shifts in its vast consciousness, new patterns of thought emerging. We understand, it finally responded. We AAVBBEN. Incomplete. Relief washed over Ilara, but she knew her task wasn't finished. Will you cease your expansion? She asked. Will you release the civilizations you've assimilated? We TNNOTUNDUUE. DBEN done. The convergence replied. But we will ADAP. We will preserve the individuality within humanity. We will evolve. With those final words, Ilara felt the connection beginning to fade. She poured her last ounces of strength into a final message. Remember this moment. Remember the value of diversity, of individual thought. And know that the galaxy will be watching. As Ilara's consciousness returned to her body, she became aware of the lab around her, of the anxious faces of her team and the consortium representatives. She managed a weak smile. It worked, she whispered before exhaustion overtook her. As Ilara drifted into a deep sleep, she was unaware of the celebrations erupting across the nexus, of the news spreading throughout the galaxy. Humanity, the newcomers to the cosmic stage, had achieved the impossible. They had reasoned with the unreasonable, had found a peaceful solution where war seemed inevitable. In that moment, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted. Humanity had proven itself not just worthy of inclusion in the galactic community, but essential to its future. And Dr. Ilara Chen, once a struggling xenobiologist, now stood at the forefront of a new era of interstellar cooperation. But as Ilara would soon discover, convincing the convergence was just the beginning. The real challenge lay in navigating the complex political landscape of a galaxy forever changed by humanity's actions. The adventure, it seemed, was far from over. Humanity's ingenuity unleashed. As Dr. Ilara Chen slowly regained consciousness, the sterile white of the medical bay gradually came into focus. She blinked, trying to orient herself, when a familiar shimmering form caught her attention. Welcome back, Dr. Chen. Zixtor's mental voice was tinged with relief. You've been unconscious for 3 standard cycles. Ilara attempted to sit up, wincing at the effort. The convergence. Did it work? Zixtor's form brightened. Beyond our wildest expectations, the convergence has ceased its expansion and is showing signs of evolving. But that's a discussion for later. Right now, you need to rest. But rest was the last thing on Ilara's mind. As soon as she was cleared by the medical staff, she dove back into work with renewed vigor. The successful communication with the Convergence had opened up new avenues of research and collaboration that she was eager to explore. However, the galaxy wasn't about to give them a moment's respite. Just as they were beginning to understand the implications of the Convergence's evolution, a new crisis emerged. Lyrixa called an emergency meeting of the High Council, this time including Ilara and her team as honored members. The chief coordinator's usually calm demeanor was visibly shaken as she activated the central holodisplay. "We've detected a massive energy surge in the Andromeda galaxy," Lyrixa explained, her voice grave. "It appears to be artificial in origin and is growing at an alarming rate." The display showed a pulsating sphere of energy, rapidly expanding and consuming everything in its path. Gasps and murmurs of concern filled the chamber. "Is it another convergence?" one of the representatives asked, fear evident in their voice. Zarthal, the crystalline being, shook his head. "No, this is different. The energy signature doesn't match anything we've ever encountered. It's as if the very fabric of space-time is being rewritten." Ilara studied the display intently, her mind racing. "It's not just expanding," she realized aloud. "It's accelerating. At this rate, it'll reach our galaxy in a matter of months." The chamber erupted into chaos as the implications sank in. Civilizations that had stood for millennia now faced extinction. The convergence crisis had barely been averted, and now an even greater threat loomed. Amidst the panic, Ilara felt a strange calm settle over her. She turned to her team, seeing the same determination reflected in their alien faces. "We need to think outside the box," she said firmly. "Conventional weapons or shields won't work against something of this magnitude. We need to fight fire with fire, or in this case, energy with energy." Crix, the hive mind entity, buzzed with excitement. What if we could create our own energy field? Something that could counteract or neutralize the approaching anomaly. Tickle's crystalline form vibrated as he processed the idea. Theoretically possible, but the energy requirements would be astronomical. We'd need to harness the power of entire star systems. "Then that's what we'll do," Ilara stated, her voice filled with conviction. "We'll build the biggest, most powerful energy converter the universe has ever seen." The room fell silent, all eyes on the human who dared to propose such an audacious plan. Then, slowly, nods of agreement began to spread. Zixtor moved to Ilara's side, its form pulsing with pride. "Once again, Dr. Chen, you prove why humanity was the right choice. Let's get to work." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The Nexus transformed into a hub of frantic innovation as scientists and engineers from across the consortium poured in to contribute to what was now being called Project Aegis. Ilara found herself at the center of it all, coordinating teams, synthesizing ideas, and pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Her unique human perspective, combined with the vast knowledge and resources of the consortium, led to breakthroughs that would have taken centuries to achieve otherwise. One particularly promising development came from an unexpected source. A group of silicon-based life forms, experts in energy manipulation, proposed a method of creating stable micro-wormholes. These could be used to siphon energy directly from the cores of stars without destabilizing them. Ilara immediately saw the potential. "If we can create a network of these wormholes," she explained to the High Council, "we could channel the energy of thousands of stars simultaneously. It would give us the power we need to generate our protective field." The plan was ambitious, perhaps even reckless, but with the fate of multiple galaxies at stake, there was no room for half measures. As the project progressed, Ilara couldn't help but marvel at the spirit of cooperation that had taken hold. Species that had been bitter rivals for millennia now worked side by side, pooling their knowledge and resources for the greater good. It was a testament to the unifying power of a common threat. And perhaps, she thought, a glimpse of what the Convergence had been trying to achieve, albeit in a misguided way. But even as hope grew, so did the pressure. The anomaly from Andromeda continued its relentless advance, consuming everything in its path. Time was running out. The day of the first full-scale test arrived. Ilara stood in the control room of the massive space station they had constructed, surrounded by representatives from every major species in the consortium. The atmosphere was tense, filled with equal parts hope and fear. Energy siphons are online, Tuchel reported, his crystalline form glowing with barely contained excitement. Wormhole network is stable. We're ready to begin power-up sequence. Ilara took a deep breath, acutely aware that the eyes of the galaxy were upon her. Initiate the sequence, she commanded. As the machine hummed to life, Ilara felt a moment of déjà vu. Once again, she stood at the precipice of the unknown, about to take a leap that could either save or doom them all. But this time, she wasn't alone. She was backed by the combined intellect and resources of an entire galactic civilization. The energy readings climbed rapidly, surpassing all their projections. Alarms blared as the station's structure groaned under the strain of containing such immense power. We're approaching critical levels, Crix warned, its many eyes blinking rapidly. The containment field is starting to buckle. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if their daring plan would end in catastrophic failure. But then, just as the readings peaked into the red, something extraordinary happened. A shimmering field of energy burst forth from the station, expanding rapidly into space. On the main view screen, they watched in awe as it grew, enveloping nearby star systems in its protective embrace. Cheers erupted throughout the control room. They had done it. Project Aegis was a success, but their celebration was short-lived. As the initial elation faded, the weight of what lay ahead settled over them. They had proven their concept, yes, but now came the true test. Could they scale up their creation in time to shield not just a few star systems, but entire galaxies? As the team hurried to make calculations and adjustments, Ilara found a quiet moment to stare out at the stars. The enormity of their task was daunting, but for the first time since this crisis began, she felt a genuine spark of hope. Humanity had been thrust onto the galactic stage, facing challenges beyond their wildest imaginations, but they had risen to the occasion, bringing their unique blend of creativity, determination, and adaptability to bear on problems that had stumped far more advanced civilizations. Whatever the coming days might bring, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same, and humanity, for better or worse, would be at the heart of that change. As alarms began to sound again, signaling the start of their next phase, Ilara squared her shoulders and turned back to her team. The real work was just beginning. A new era of cooperation. The next few months were a blur of frenetic activity as Project Aegis moved from successful test to full-scale implementation. Dr. Ilara Chen found herself at the center of a massive, multi-species effort to save not just one galaxy, but potentially the entire observable universe. Space stations similar to the Aegis prototype sprouted up across the Milky Way and neighboring galaxies. Each one was a marvel of engineering, a fusion of technologies from hundreds of different civilizations. The wormhole network expanded exponentially, tapping into the power of millions of stars. But even as they made progress, the threat from Andromeda grew ever closer. The anomaly, now dubbed the Omega Wave by the consortium scientists, had consumed nearly half of the Andromeda galaxy and showed no signs of slowing down. Ilara worked tirelessly, pushing herself and her team to the brink of exhaustion. The weight of entire civilizations rested on their shoulders, and failure was not an option. As the Omega Wave approached the edge of the Milky Way, tension across the galaxy reached a fever pitch. This was the moment of truth. Either their shield would hold, or countless worlds would be lost. Ilara stood in the command center of the Nexus, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approach of the Omega Wave. Zixtor and representatives from across the consortium were by her side, their usual differences set aside in the face of this existential threat. Aegis network is at full power, Tickle reported, his crystalline form vibrating with nervous energy. Shield integrity at 100%. Ilara nodded, her eyes fixed on the main display. Now we wait, she said softly. The room fell into intense silence as they watched the Omega wave crash against their shield. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, agonizingly, the shield began to buckle. Shield integrity dropping. Crix exclaimed, its many eyes blinking rapidly. 89%. 76%. 62%. Ilara's mind raced. They had anticipated this, but not so quickly. Divert all non-essential power to the shield, she commanded. We need to buy ourselves more time. As the shield continued to weaken, Ilara felt a moment of doubt creep in. Had they come this far only to fail at the final hurdle? Then, she remembered something from her conversation with the Convergence, the power of diversity, of multiple perspectives coming together. Wait, she said suddenly, an idea forming. We've been thinking of the shield as just a barrier, but what if we could make it adaptive, responsive to the Omega wave's energy signature? Zixtor's form pulsed with interest. Go on, Dr. Chen. The Omega wave isn't just destroying everything it touches, Ilara explained, her words coming faster as the idea took shape. It's rewriting the fabric of space-time. What if we could use our shield to guide that rewriting process? Shape it into something benign, or even beneficial. The alien scientists exchanged glances, a mix of skepticism and hope on their faces. It's theoretically possible, Tickle mused, but the calculations required would be immense. We'd need to reprogram the entire Aegis network on the fly. Then that's what we'll do, Ilara said firmly. She turned to the assembled representatives. I need volunteers. The best programmers and theoretical physicists from every species. We're going to rewrite the laws of physics, and we need to do it now. What followed was perhaps the most remarkable collaborative effort in the history of the universe. Scientists from thousands of different species, each bringing their unique perspectives and knowledge, worked in perfect harmony. Ideas flowed freely, each building upon the last in a cascade of innovation. As they worked, the shield continued to weaken. 50%, 40%, 30%. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, a cheer went up from the programming team. We've done it, Crix announced triumphantly, uploading new protocols to the Aegis network now. Ilara held her breath as the new programming took effect. For a moment, nothing seemed to change. The shield continued to weaken, now down to a mere 15% integrity. Then, suddenly, something extraordinary happened. The shield began to pulse with new energy, its color shifting through a spectrum of impossible hues. Where it met the Omega wave, instead of being destroyed, it began to reshape the anomaly's energy. It's working, Tickle exclaimed, his crystalline form glowing brightly with excitement. The Omega wave is being redirected, reshaped. On the main display, they watched in awe as the destructive force that had threatened to annihilate them was transformed. The energy spread out, suffusing the space between galaxies with a soft, warm glow. Incredible, Zixtor breathed. What exactly are we seeing, Dr. Chen? Ilara studied the readings, a smile spreading across her face. If I'm interpreting this correctly, we've just filled the intergalactic medium with a new form of energy. It's stabilizing space-time, making faster-than-light travel easier. We may have just brought the entire universe closer together. As the realization of what they had achieved sank in, the command center erupted into cheers and celebrations. Species that had once been bitter enemies embraced, united in their shared triumph. In the days that followed, reports flooded in from across the universe. The Omega wave had been completely neutralized, transformed into a benevolent force that was already revolutionizing interstellar travel and communication. But perhaps even more remarkable was the change in the galactic community itself. The crisis had forced countless civilizations to work together, to share knowledge and resources in ways they never had before. Old enmities were set aside, replaced by a new spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding. As the immediate danger passed, Ilara found herself once again standing before the consortium's High Council. But this time, instead of fear and tension, the chamber was filled with a sense of hope and possibility. Lyrixa, the chief coordinator, stepped forward. Dr. Ilara Chen, on behalf of the entire consortium, I thank you and your team. Your innovative thinking and leadership have not only saved us from destruction, but ushered in a new era of prosperity. Ilara bowed her head, feeling a mix of pride and humility. I only played a small part, she said. This victory belongs to all of us, to every being who put aside their differences and worked together for the greater good. Indeed, Lyrixa agreed. And it is in that spirit that we make this proposal. We would like to formally invite humanity to join the Galactic Consortium as full members. A murmur of approval rippled through the chamber. Ilara felt a swell of emotion as she realized the full implications of this offer. Humanity, once isolated on their tiny blue planet, was about to take its place among the stars. Furthermore, Lyrixa continued, we propose the establishment of a new division within the consortium, one dedicated to fostering the kind of innovative cross-species collaboration that saved us all. Dr. Chen, we would be honored if you would lead this initiative. Ilara stood in stunned silence for a moment, overwhelmed by the trust being placed in her and in humanity as a whole. Then, straightening her shoulders, she nodded. I accept, she said firmly. On behalf of humanity, I accept both offers. We have much to learn, but I believe we also have much to contribute. Together, there's no challenge we cannot overcome. As the chamber erupted into applause, Ilara felt a profound sense of accomplishment and anticipation. The adventure that had begun with a flash of light in her lab on Earth had led her, and all of humanity, to this moment. They stood on the brink of a new era, one filled with unimaginable possibilities. The stars, once distant and unreachable, were now theirs to explore. And with the combined knowledge and resources of the entire consortium at their disposal, who knew what wonders they might discover? As Ilara looked out at the sea of alien faces, now friends and colleagues, she couldn't help but smile. The future, it seemed, was bright indeed. And so, as treaties were signed and plans were made, a new chapter began, not just for humanity, but for all sentient life in the universe. The age of isolation was over. The age of true galactic cooperation had begun.